If I'm at a stoplight and I am fuming, and this happened to me, and I'm fuming at the person in front of me because they didn't use their turn signal, whatever was going on that day. And I remember being at that light, and I remember feeling all of this pent-up anger and frustration and, that road rage feeling. It was terrible. And because I've been practicing this idea of awareness and self-responsibility, I I noticed what was happening inside of me, the suffering that I was actually feeling through that anger and that pent-up energy. I was depressed for many years, and, people take medication for that. I have no judgment on that, but when I went to the universe and I said, "What should I do?" I wake up unhappy every morning with the weight of the world on me, with the weight of my own, self-hate on me, my own discomfort with myself, etcetera. And I said, "Should I take drugs?" And the universe said, "You'll find another way." Now, I don't do everything the universe always tells me. It's gotta resonate with me. Nobody's the boss of me. I'm not the guru or the boss of anybody else. This is I'm just helping others.
Tune in, transform, and take your life to the next level by listening to just one of our podcasts. Well, welcome back to Inside Personal Growth. This is Greg Voisen, the host of the podcast. Jill, everybody knows me because they listen to this podcast, but they don't know you. Joining us from Eugene, Oregon, is the author of this book, Guidance from the Useful Universe, Hopeful Messages for Everyday Challenges, Jill Amy Sager. Jill, thank you for being on the show. How you
Well,
doing?
thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure, and I'm glad that we were able to connect, get this podcast booked, and for all my listeners, you're in for a treat. I'm going to let them know a tad bit about you, Jill. She says in her website, she's a Jewish woman, disabled since birth, who grew up in the Bronx, now living in Eugene, Oregon. Has spent many childhood years in and out of hospitals, and for much of your adult life, you were depressed, lacking self-esteem, and believing that you were unlovable. The profound teachings from the tarot and guidance, the universal wisdom, I channel helped you to blossom into self-confident woman that you are today. This is why you help others and have been helped. This is your first book, correct?
Yes, yes, this is my first book on this subject. I actually used to be a professional percussionist, and I have a curriculum book out there, but that was a long time ago. But I love to write, and hopefully other books in the future.
Well, you told the people at your website you received your first set of tarot cards as a gift in 1970.
Yeah, the late
Today, that you're sought after, sheer with an international following, and so what you've learned to continue through reading the tarot and understanding the higher powers is a gift that she's giving all of us today in this podcast and guidance from the universe. So, Jill, thank you again for being on the show and taking this time to talk about your new book and to provide our listeners with some insights. So, there was a little bit I told about your story. Look, you were in and out of hospitals for years. You didn't feel loved. You didn't think you were lovable, you said. Obviously, those are key emotional and psychological things that are going on. Was there a pivotal moment that you realized you needed to share this wisdom? And in particular, through this book, that you've been able to give to our listeners?
I actually didn't even know I was gonna be writing this book. What happened, I guess the pivotal moment was after I had, downloaded automatic writing through automatic writing at that time, these messages from the universe that were so loving and wise on all these different topics, suffering and judgment and jealousy. I was really blown away, and they were helping me. And years later, I'm laughing because I still think this is funny. that voice that I get that is what I call this universal love, messages, I heard them they said to me, "Did you think that these messages were only meant for you?" And
Mm.
I was like, "Yeah, thank you. They've been great for me, and I certainly have shared them with my clients." But the message came through that really more people needed to have these, and that's when I started to write the book. It was only later that I came up with the idea to write my stories, and I have to say I've had my intuition, personal intuition, has grown over the years working with tarot and, initially, and trusting my own intuition, and something said to me, myself, I thought, I'm gonna write my own stories." I really didn't analyze why that was, but I did, and so in this book, I have my own stories about how I used the information, and then later I also got the message. I was actually in New York visiting my family when I realized that I probably need to put in questions to jumpstart the reader's own musings on these topics, and so the book evolved slowly, but in that way.
Yeah, the questions are really I was just on with somebody who's a fellow podcaster and an author, and the book, interestingly enough, was about, um, 68 questions that he came up with, and I think, you know, questions for a podcaster, people think, "Oh, it must be easy." Well, it's not always easy, but the reality is, it is the questions that are engaging, and provoking deep thought that really give the listeners a better idea. Now, your book covers a wide range of topics from emotions to spirituality. Um, in your estimation, Jill, what unites all of these lessons, and what do you hope the readers are going to take away from this?
Mm. I think for me, what unites all of this, and I get a little teary-eyed when I talk about it, is that awareness is all, and that's actually my first chapter, and that's a
Mm.
message that I got from the universe, and I have really come to understand that in a very profound and big way. And what I mean about awareness is all is that putting a mirror on myself, seeing myself truly as I am, is such a freeing thing. Like, I'll give you an example, and I think if I remember this is in the book. If I'm at a stoplight and I am fuming, and this happened to me, and I'm fuming at the person in front of me because they didn't use their turn signal, whatever was going on that day. And I remember being at that light, and I remember feeling all of this, pent-up anger and frustration and, that road rage feeling, it was terrible, and because I've been practicing this idea of awareness and self-responsibility, I I noticed what was happening inside of me, the suffering that I was actually feeling through that anger and that pent-up energy, and I took a breath, and I let it go. And immediately, and this is through years of working with this didn't happen, I say immediately, it did immediately happen that I felt more compassion, which took me years to understand that too, but it did happen in that moment. The compassion just flooded in. I immediately thought, "Gosh, maybe it's a new driver, maybe their turn signal doesn't work," and I was able to let go, and what I have felt from that awareness, which is I really believe is what we need to be doing to uplift our lives, self-awareness, is that I absolutely in that moment, and I still believe this, I do better for myself when I'm one with me, when I am more in tune with myself, when I am not struggling, and, um, and then and then I know that I can do better for other people. That's when I'm at my best, to be kinder to people, to be gentler with people, and I also believe that the world needs this. Why am I adding and that was the other thought I had that day in my car, why am I adding more of that energy, that anger into the world? We don't need it. So it really is this all-encompassing idea, I think, for me and what I've learned from the universe's messages that really self-reflection, self-awareness is so important if we're gonna feel better in life so we
Well,
can do better.
as I think many of the listeners know, it's easier to say that they are self-aware. It's challenging to control that emotion of anger or frustration or whatever in the moment. And as you said, you took a deep breath. And I think awareness comes in many ways. And one of the ways that it does is through taking a breath before you actually spout off or you say something you would have regretted saying in the moment, because you just felt like you had to say it. Um, and you have some other key themes and concepts in the book. One of them is surrender, and the other one is you write about fear and forgiveness. And I think I'm going to combine this question because intuition is what guides you. But how can people learn to move past the fear and embrace forgiveness in their lives? And how can people, and we can double up on this one, how can people let go and detach from what they think is right, the way it should go, and versus being attached to something, which is this is an Eastern philosophy, frequently then being disappointed that it didn't happen a certain way, not getting the love they wanted, not getting the money they thought they deserved, not getting the house that they thought they were supposed to have. So it's kind of a combined question for you, but I think that both of them kind of they feed off of one another.
Well, I think the underbelly of what you're talking about has to do with suffering, really. And when we attach, I mean, it's human nature. I do this too. We want to be secure. We want to control. We want things to work out. And we sometimes believe, mostly perhaps believe that if we hold on and keep following the same course or, things will work out, we have control, etc. But what I see over and over and what I've seen in my own life is how if I'm holding on to something tightly and I see it's not quite working out, it's a little bit the energy on that can be a little bit like, hitting your head against a wall, and I think that it is hard, difficult to let go and let be what is, what's meant to be, and that is a very, I think, challenging thing to do. But I also have seen for myself and with clients that when I let go, I end up being able to see people for who they are, allow for whatever is meant to be, and it is freeing to be in that space, and I think it takes a lot of courage to let go and to allow, for what is and to surrender. It's not an easy thing to do, but I
Did
do.
you did you grow up in the Jewish faith?
I did, but not what we call perhaps a cultural Jew. In other words,
Uh-huh.
we did all the holidays. We did go to temple, but my Jewish upbringing definitely, I think, has informed the fact that I am able to question. It might have even, when I've thought about it, it might have even informed the fact that I said yes to, tarot and to
So did you get into Jewish mysticism and books?
no, I never did.
Did you get
But what I
into
was
the
gonna say is
Kabbalah
that
or any of that?
no,
No?
never
No.
did.
Okay.
But the reason I'm thinking that it might have informed my ability to say yes to all of this that has happened to me, which really was a surprise to me and unexpected. I never thought I was gonna be a tarot reader or a go-between for spirit. But in the Jewish religion, we are taught to question. We're critical thinkers. We're taught to question. It's not a dogma. And so I think when these things started to happen, I felt open to, and maybe because of my background and my upbringing, I felt open to just acceptance and going, "Okay, I'm not gonna put this in a box. I'm not gonna say this doesn't exist. I'm gonna continue to say yes to it and ask, what is it and what can I learn from it and what can I offer myself through it?
How did you end up taking this self-discovery through tarot? And then why did you believe that the tarot itself would be a personal transformational process for the way you helped others?
Well, when I moved from the Bronx to California in the 70s, the late 70s, I met a woman who gave me a tarot reading. At that time, I had no idea what that was, and tarot
Right.
certainly wasn't as popular as it is today. But immediately I felt like the cards knew me, that I was being seen. I don't remember what that first reading was, but I certainly remember that it was helpful. And that's what tarot is. It really is about knowing thyself. And so the next day, she gave me a set of cards and I started to study. I just really took to it. And it was through that process of learning the cards and becoming more intuitive myself because of using the cards, starting to read for others just because word of mouth was spreading. My sister was telling all her friends. And I ended up years later, and I think because I was a musician, I think because I had a creative, that right side of the brain, the intuitive creative side, I ended up, yeah, getting this information and from the universe, and it's all kind of come together. I mean, when I work with clients today, I still am pulling cards. I love tarot, but I certainly am getting information from the universe. And what I notice is that it's all the same stuff.
Mm.
What I say in the preface of my book isn't that what I'm saying is new. It just might be a new way of understanding it. We are all of us, I believe, that are in this genre of whatever you want to call it, self-help, metaphysical, being able to understand what's going on, what's behind the veil, using tarot, using oracle cards, whatever it is. I really, really believe it's simply put, it's love. And it's there to help us, to pull us out of suffering. And there are many different ways that we can do this. And my way is one way. And I do offer my way, obviously, to clients at this point, only because I am myself, work in the program, air quotes. I continue to learn. I continue to check myself. I suffer. Right before we met today, I meditated for 15 minutes. I've been having a little bit of a sad time. That's okay. That happens. But part of what self-awareness is about, it's truly about acceptance. It's truly about acceptance. It's not
Yeah.
about judging ourselves. It's about acceptance. And that is something that is such a gift to
Well, and
feel.
I think it's learning how to, you say self-acceptance, but it's learning how to understand that this is what is. And you do have, as you said, you have choices, you have gratitude that you mentioned in the book. But I want to talk about people that kind of feel lost or maybe stuck and they're looking for, they're seeking. And a lot of people like you just said, "Oh, well, 15 minutes before this, I did this because I was feeling a little despondent," right? But
Mhm.
they feel disconnected or lost in this world because it's hard to attach to something that's permanent. It seems shifting all the time. There's uncertainty in every part of our worlds today, and I'm not just going to blame it on the government. I'm going to say we living in a pretty fast-paced, world these days from what I remember and perceived before. How can they reconnect with the wisdom of the universe, which is what you're offering, and lived a more aligned life? They obviously can come to you and have a tarot reading. They can pick up your book and get ideas from this book.
It's true.
Do you have any ideas about how they might like stop right now and say, okay, I should basically deep breathe and do a meditation, or I should take a walk in the woods, or I should go down to the beach, or I should do something, but something that removes their mind from going in that proverbial circle of what ifs?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I actually worked with a client yesterday on that what if thing, she was overwhelmed. I really believe that, and this is, what I've learned and what I have noticed is that we do spend a lot of time as humans. This is so normal. We are disconnected, right? Our view is outside. In other words, life challenges us. It always will. That's not new. Struggling, suffering is not new. This is what happens to us. And when that happens, as you said, we're kind of in that place where maybe all we can see or all we can feel is that suffering and that challenging, and it can be overwhelming. And that's exactly what happens to us. That's exactly where we get caught. And really, I know this is going to sound counterintuitive, but this is what guidance has taught me. And this is what I absolutely believe because I have done this for myself. We suffer as humans, and yet we don't spend time really, you asked earlier about emotions. We really don't spend a lot of time sitting with the suffering.
Mhm.
We know we're suffering, but we're busy. We do this, we do that. You don't even have to take a walk in the woods. Really, if we sit down,
Do you think
this
that
is
people don't sit in the suffering, Jill, because they really don't wanna hear what the suffering has to say or what they're trying to learn from it?
I don't know, but I mean, we are all so busy. And like I said, I
Mhm.
think it's counterintuitive because I know from working with clients, when I say if you sit in the suffering and you absolutely just turn on a time, put a timer on for 5 minutes, 10 minutes,
Mhm.
sit in the suffering. You're suffering anyway. It's not going to get worse. I mean, this is our fear, I think. We think if we sit with it, it'll never go away. We'll drown in it. We're already suffering. It's already happening. I mean, I'll give you an example. The first time I tried this, mindful meditation, my teacher, Amy Trezona, is wonderful, mindful meditation teacher, years ago. And I remember sitting, timer, 10 minutes. I was feeling just terrible. I don't know what was going on. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. And I sat. I thought, I can feel that I'm not happy. I can feel that something's going on for me. And I already come from, as we've discussed already, this idea that awareness is very important. So I was willing to sit for those 10, 15 minutes. What I noticed was that I was so anxious. My body was buzzing. I felt like I was over across the room.
Mm.
Noticing that brought me back. It's like, why would I do that to myself? I don't think we can really lie to ourselves. I don't think we really, I think it's just about sitting with whatever's going on. That's simple. It's not about clearing your mind or trying to will it away. Guidance has taught me, and I do this all the time for myself, that if I'm suffering anyway, I know I'm over saying this, but I see it working, and like I said, it's counterintuitive. We really feel like we're not gonna be resilient. We really believe if we sit with the suffering, as I said, it'll grow. No, if we sit with it, it's like we're struggling. We notice that we're struggling with ourselves,
Mhm.
that this fight isn't about the challenges that are taking us. It's about the choices we're making about how we're dealing with those challenges. And in that moment, even if I'm relieved for 10 seconds because I breathed and I went, wait, I don't want to feel all this pain inside of me. That's 10 seconds of relief. That's everything. So as we do that and practice that, what I've noticed is that I get better at noticing it right quicker,
Right.
right? And
Right.
I used to be, you talked about, I was depressed for many years. And, people take medication for that. I have no judgment on that. But when I went to the universe and I said, "What should I do?" I wake up unhappy every morning with the weight of the world on me, with the weight of my own self-hate on me, my own discomfort with myself, etc. And I said, "Should I take drugs?" And the universe said, "You'll find another way." Now, I don't do everything the universe always tells me. It's got to resonate with me. Nobody's the boss of me. I'm not the guru or the boss of anybody else. This is, I'm just helping others to help themselves, right? And that's how I feel about the universe. But I really did sit with that, and they were right. And the way that I learned to help myself was, as we've already
Yeah,
discussed,
this way.
this way. That's right, to really be
This
myself.
way.
Yeah, it
My
is suffering.
question would be for you, what has been bubbling up with me as you've been speaking, and thank you for that explanation. The question that I asked is truly, what has the universe guidance told you, or guidance from the universe regarding impermanence?
Oh, gosh. What do you mean by impermanence? Is that,
I could say finitude, impermanence, our physical being here on this physical plane,
Mhm.
moving to another plane of existence.
Yeah.
What kind of download, if any, have you received regarding? Because look, it's something that a lot of people fear. Um, Depending, I mean, impermanence of even the house, the car, the money, the relationships, whatever it might be, or also the impermanence of actually being physically here on this planet.
Yeah. Well, let me talk first about the fact that, part of what I've learned has to do with what's here right now.
Mhm.
I mean, and that's, when you talk about, the fear of losing things or whatever, I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of saying, "Am I okay, in this moment? I am still here in this moment."
Mhm.
And to have gratitude just for that, because we don't know how long we're gonna be here, right? So,
Right.
it really is about this struggle, this human struggle that we have about the future and the what ifs and being overwhelmed by our choices, and yet right here I am, right here in this moment, I'm here, and when I can get to that, everything shifts, and I'm just grateful. And when I have asked the universe, I do have a chapter in my book, about death, I believe I remember that, and when I've people some clients have come to me and they've asked, and it's always the same answer, I always get the same answer, which is, something I don't think you have to be someone who channels information just to know this, but death's a level playing field. We're all heading there. Nobody's getting out of this world alive. And in that way, when I think about that, even though I have a fear of death or what does that mean and where am I gonna go? When I realize that it's everybody's experience, it really does settle that fear. I wanna believe that just like being born is such a gift, that for me, this is my own belief, my own bias, that dying is a gift.
Mhm.
When I'm asked about reincarnation, and I talk about this in my book, I believe I've had past lives, but I'm here to tell you that I live in the wonder of all of this. I don't have definitive ideas. Guidance never gives me definitive ideas about what the other side is. It could be that the other side has to do with how we believe it's gonna be. I have no idea. Even
Mhm.
I, who have noticed that I might have had, and I say might have had, past lives, still, I cannot, for myself, this is just me, totally buy into it because I don't know. I really don't know, and I'm
Well,
good to believe I don't
that's
know.
fair, and I think many people don't know,
We don't
and
know.
I think they are seeking to find something. Thus, all the great religions of the world that are supposed to be giving them some solace in what it might be, or if
It
they
is
do these certain actions. But I will say that, and that I want to preface this is no matter what, pardon me, dogma you might believe in, whether it's Catholicism or it's Hinduism or you're a Muslim or whatever religion it is. I think, look, more religions have removed people from the true source by dividing them from that universal power, this source of guidance for you, than they have done to connect them to it.
Yes.
Okay.
And isn't
And
that yeah, mhm. And I was gonna say, isn't that the way though that we if love exists, if love exists here and on the other side of the if love exists, then I have to believe that, love exists whether I'm here or not. I mean,
right.
this is, what you're talking about, really, that fear of death, this is what you and I are both talking about, that fear, so having to know what it is for me personally, and I can't s say this is true for anybody else, but for me personally, why continue to go down that path of fear, whether it's about, when I die or while I'm here? That energy of fear, can motivate us, right?
Well,
It can motivate,
it's a very
but it can also stuck
profound
us.
question, and it's not always just about fear.
Mm.
It's about what is it like, meaning what's the experience. And I think the people who believe in reincarnation, that's fine. If you believe in reincarnation, whether you remember your past lives or you're not, that's fine. But I think for a lot of people, they have to realize, and I will say this with all due respect, it's hopefully like just taking off an article of clothing, right? Meaning this has been a great analogy over time. Is like you're just changing suits. You have a suit on while you're here, you can put a new another suit. And I don't really know that. I just know that what it does is it helps a lot of people get relief from what they think is actually going to happen because they associate it with pain. Now, is there a lot of pain sometimes before the ultimate event? Yeah, there's a lot of people that have cancer and suffer from all kinds of things and ailments and whatever. And there's other people that go immediately, right? It's just like, boom, you're gone. Or they went to bed and they didn't wake up. The point there being, though, the mind spends lots of different concepts. Your book and your guidance. So if they did want to come to you and get a reading, and that was one of the questions on their mind, you would be able to address that through what the tarot might say. Um, but I think this is a wonderful resource for people. That's what I'm going to tell my listeners out there today is that definitely go pick up a copy of Guidance from the Universe. It says hopeful messages for everyday challenges. And believe me, finitude is one of those things that a lot of people think about sometimes, thinking about it every day. This is Jill Amy Sager, and she has been on with us for the last 45 minutes discussing this. And when you go into this book, believe me, the pictures of the tarot cards are in there as well. So you can see the deck that she's using. A lot of people color them, actually like to color them in with pencils. But it's very intriguing what you're doing and the way you're going about doing it. And it's also, I think, been quite an eye opener for many of the people that are listening to the podcast today. And I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you for taking some time to really convey your story, your message, the messages you've gotten from Guidance from the Universe, and some of the other areas that we've gone off onto regarding practical applications and the key concepts in the books. Is there any one last thing that you'd like to leave the listeners with, like one key thought if they were going to go at it right now? What should they be thinking of?
Yeah, when you ask these questions, the only thing when I ask the universe, when I sit and I speak to the universe and I ask them whether no matter what kind of day I'm having, and I say, "What do I need to know?" The answer always comes back the same: love, love.
Mm,
And what that means for each of us, we have to figure out what that is. But for me, that feeling of love pours through me and I become uplifted. I don't even have to define what it is, but love is always their answer. And I think that siding with love is probably the best way to go.
right. I remember the guy that wrote the book on relationships. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus. And he always used to say, um, would you rather be right or would you rather be in love? And what he meant with couples was all the couples at all the time saying, "I'm right, you're wrong. I'm right, you're wrong," or you just say, "No, I'd rather be in love and just accept it for the way that it is." So,
That's beautiful.
um, yeah, it is because it's always this, kind of retaliation or this dispute that can occur. And what you're saying, when you're in loving kindness, when you love yourself, when you love the other people, when you have compassion, when you have understanding, you're going to have a more peaceful, serene existence versus the constant conflict. Now, there are times we need that conflict in our life, and it's fine, and that chaos in your life, as long as you're growing from it, right? And
Yeah, it
you're
gets our
seeing,
attention. It
yeah,
gets our
it gets,
attention. But I love what you said. I love what you said. That is so true. That is the key, isn't it? That peaceful existence,
yeah,
the belief in the ease of life. And I am only one example that it's possible. I was somebody who went from really struggling in life to a life that's a lot more ease, and I do believe it's because of the messages I received, from the universe constantly reminding me that that is my choice. I
well,
can
you
live in ease. It is a choice.
actually, to write a whole book about it, you had to believe that. So, uh, so, so Jill, thank you for being on Inside Personal Growth.
Thank you.
Namaste to you. Thanks for sharing your insights and your wisdom from guidance from the universe. We'll certainly put links to your website and links to Amazon to buy the book. It's been an honor and a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Greg. My pleasure.